If you lead people right now, then you already know that trust is a really important part of your job description. But if you've been around leadership conversations lately, you've probably also felt a shift. Something has changed. Something about the way that people are showing up at work feels different. Employees seem more cautious and maybe disengaged. Leaders feel more exposed and more stressed. Trust feels thinner and fragile and easier to disrupt. That is what I want to talk about today. Hi, I'm LeAnne Lagasse. I'm a leadership consultant, an executive coach, a keynote speaker, and the author of The Congruent Leader. And I get to spend my days working with leaders and organizations who genuinely care about their people and want to lead well, yet still find themselves frustrated by disengagement, resistance, or the sense that their leadership intentions aren't always translating into the outcomes that they want. This channel is about helping leaders understand themselves more clearly, understand how others experience them, so that they can lead with more alignment, more integrity, and more trust. Today's episode is called Why Leadership Alignment and Congruence Matter More Than Ever. And it's grounded in a very simple and unsettling reality that right now we have a big trust problem in the workplace. So according to the Gallup organization, only 21% of U.S. employees strongly agree that they trust the leadership of their organization. Now that can feel really deflating. When I share that stat with leaders, the response is usually quiet because intuitively it matches what many of us are feeling already and what we see happening around us. So when I talk about leadership alignment and congruence, I'm not talking about some abstract leadership theory for leadership's sake. I'm talking about something that is deeply practical and very timely. Alignment shows up when our values, our motivations, and our actions move in the same direction. And congruence happens when how we see ourselves as leaders matches how other people experience us. Together, those two things form a foundation of trust, and they matter right now for so many reasons. But we're going to talk about three major reasons. The first reason that leadership alignment matters more than ever is that people evaluate leaders through patterns rather than just words or promises. Listen, employees hear leadership language constantly: collaboration, transparency, flexibility, well-being, growth. And while those words matter, they actually don't carry the most weight. What carries weight is what people experience of us consistently over time. So I mentioned Gallup earlier. They also found that 29% of employees say that they lack clear, honest, or consistent communication from their leaders. That means that nearly 1/3 of the workforce experiences leadership communication as confusing, incomplete, unreliable, even when, as leaders, we think that we're being clear. Because people notice what gets rewarded over time, how decisions are made under pressure over time, what happens when feedback is shared, and how we respond when something goes wrong. So over time, those repeated moments create patterns, and those patterns tell people what we really value and what we don't value. When alignment is present, right, our behaviors are connected to our values. People find us predictable and understandable. But when that alignment weakens, our team members are more likely to want to protect themselves, to be maybe disengaged, to slip into a mode of maybe compliance as opposed to commitment. Alignment, however, gives people something steady to orient to. And so that's why it's so important that we're focusing on alignment right now. The second reason that congruence is so important right now is that uncertainty amplifies every leadership signal. So we are under so much pressure and stress right now, too many to name. But under those conditions, our leadership becomes more visible and people are paying very close attention to how we respond under pressure. So when we aren't acting in consistent ways over time, it causes our trust to be negatively affected. Gallup has found that there's a 30 percentage point difference between how managers think that they're giving feedback and how their team members experience feedback from them. That's a big gap. that gap matters more than we realize because it shapes trust. When leaders believe that they're communicating clearly or supporting their teams well, but employees experience confusion or a lack of direction, uncertainty increases, and those mixed signals can raise anxiety. Silence creates space for assumptions, right? Congruent leaders remain anchored during pressure. They acknowledge uncertainty, they're clear about trade-offs, and they communicate clearly even when answers are still evolving. That steadiness helps reduce anxiety and creates a sense of psychological safety. The reality is that people trust leaders who feel grounded, intentional, emotionally regulated, especially when the environment around them feels unstable. The third reason that leadership alignment and congruence matter more than ever is that the trust on our team determines whether we have any leadership influence at all. So trust shapes engagement, shapes the retention, it shapes feedback, performance, how people respond to change, influences how our messages are interpreted. And when trust is strong, feedback tends to surface earlier on our teams. That's what we want. Change is met with more curiosity, there's more accountability, and even our disagreement and our conflict remains productive. But when trust weakens, our leadership influence narrows, and our teams are going to start operating more cautiously instead of collaboratively. So alignment and congruence rebuild credibility over time. They help us communicate with clarity and consistency, and that belief is going to create genuine buy-in. So here's a practical takeaway. Leadership alignment and congruence show up in everyday choices. They show up in how we make decisions, explain decisions, how we handle stress, what we follow up on, how we as leaders respond to feedback, and where our time and attention go. People learn what matters by watching us. So I'll leave you with a really important question. If someone were to observe your leadership for the next 30 days, what patterns do you think that they would see? And what would those patterns teach them about what you truly value as a leader and maybe what you don't actually value? Those answers shape trust, whether you intend them to or not. So if this conversation resonates with you, the Congruent Leader dives deeper into how you can close the gap between your intention and your impact and how you can build trust through alignment and self-awareness. And if you want to be part of more of these conversations, make sure that you like and subscribe and share and do all of the things. In the next episode, we're going to explore my 7-pillar framework from the Congruent Leader to help you grow in alignment and congruence so that you can get better outcomes in your leadership role. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.